kosher, it's Glatt. You're listening to Glatt. It's all Glatt.
The Glatt Podcast is brought to you by Fleishix Magazine and Kosherdotcom. Before our guest comes, I thought it would be fun to just share a few fun ways to celebrate Bishvat. So I have a few things here.
I'm going to reach behind me here.
Yeah.
You can...
Okay. So this was actually, I have not been on social media in quite some time. I probably lost like thousands of followers, but that's life. Anyway, but you were telling me that there's this trend that takes dates. They put butter inside and sea salt. Am I correct?
Dates, butter, and sea salt. But here's the catch.
What's the catch?
They say it tastes like cookie dough.
No.
I'm with you on that. But
Okay,
I haven't done it yet.
I think it's a fun way to bring the date aspect of the Shivas Haminim onto your table. Okay. Try a trend, see if you like it. I took some sliced, some mahadran butter stick.
Okay.
And cut it just straight into like squares, and then I cut each in half into a rectangle.
And I see you've got
to
finish it with
the pit of the date. I'm specifically using, I think you need to use medjool dates. I don't know if that's the trend, but that's the date I would recommend.
And then we put the Malden salt on top.
Put some Malden salt on top. That's the crunchy sea salt, and it's delicious.
Okay, I'm going for it.
Okay, go for it.
Baruch atah Adonai Olam Hashem, Baruch Priya Eitz. Okay.
Does it taste like cookie dough? Question number one.
I'm like closing my eyes, like trying to. It tastes good. I like dates. I like butter. I thought like cold butter would be odd. Like you don't just eat cold butter with the salt. It's fun. It's good. It's not cookie dough. Close your eyes. Okay. Verdict?
Just have a date. That is my verdict. I thought it would be fun. If you want to do it, do it.
No, I think people you should do it and you should try it because you'll be able to see. Social media is awesome. But a lot of times these things look great. And this might be good.
And by the way,
it's not cookie dough.
No, you know what else is the most interesting actually? Al tam varech and mal hitzakech.
That's true.
Someone could say, this is the best thing I ever ate in my life. And for me, it's a no. Or someone can say, this tastes like cookie dough. For me, no. But I think what would be more yummy, and I know it's more typical, but you know what we once had in a date that I would actually recommend to everyone? Okay, there's a chef. It's a Werdiger.
Okay.
And she used to make these parties in her house, like these
Goat
pop-ups.
cheese?
No, she took...
whipped ricotta.
No.
Okay.
This is...
I'm guessing.
This you have to try. Okay, you take a medjool date, you take out the pit, you stuff it with chalva, and wait, this is the most interesting thing. It's so unexpected and so delicious.
I'm like, what did she do?
Yeah. She took a grapefruit segment and put it on top.
Really?
Yeah. It was, first of all...
When you think of sweet and salty, I never thought like that sweet and like that tartness.
It was magical. I still remember till this day, and I must have eaten it
chalva,
7 years ago.
A date, chalva, and grapefruit.
Yeah. Oh, and she put fennel seeds on top.
Okay. You got to try that.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
So that's a good one. It literally just came to me, but it was so memorable.
Very cool. What are these cookies?
Thing
I see more
cookies.
cookies.
Okay, I have this project in mind. I thought to myself, every episode, I think maybe every episode is too much, but I thought it would be so fun in honor of certain episodes to create a cookie for the episode. Everyone loves cookies.
Okay.
I actually have a cookie for the first episode that I just never recorded, but I will do it, bli neder. But these are a cookie that's in progress. It's almost there. It's a Shivas Haminim cookie. And it uses every single one inside of the cookie. And
wait, so you got the wheat?
I have wheat. I have barley.
I see dates and figs.
So I used they have these breakfast cereals. Bob's Red Bull makes it, or you could get like barley flakes. So I use the breakfast cereal, which is a combination, but you can get just, you have to go to a health food store. It has dried figs, pomegranate seeds, dates in the form of date honey. And what am I missing?
You said fig. Oh, olive.
Olive oil. It's an olive oil based cookie. And it's also not too sweet. Okay, it's not kid friendly. I gave it to Zev this morning.
Oh, it was too
He saw
healthy?
it on his way to school. He's 4. No, he's 3.5. He's almost 4. Anyway, he took it and he said, no thanks. And he put it back down. He told me he doesn't like it. So we have to make chocolate chip cookies today. So it's not really a kid cookie, but for an adult, it's very, very good.
Okay. It is sweet.
It is sweet. It's just not very sweet cookie. It's an adult cookie, that's for sure. But it's fun.
I love the idea.
The idea is fun. How would you improve it?
How would I improve it? I think, just to go with the theme, I would say hawaj, like the sweet hawaj.
Oh, you want to put like warming spice, pumpkin spice or apple spice.
Yeah, the texture is great.
There's cinnamon. Do you taste cinnamon, or maybe there's not enough?
No, I didn't get cinnamon.
No? Okay, I put a half a teaspoon. I might have to put more. This is our process. Like we do this all the time. When it comes to the magazine, we're always trying recipes, developing it, testing it. You can put it back. This is our bowl. This is part of the process, but these cookies I will perfect and will post.
What is this?
This is a fun recipe from the magazine. We did it for Rosh Hashanah. And it is so great. I wanted to just bring it and just share it with everyone. Okay.
Oh, okay. But I know why. Because it has grapes, and grapes are one of the shivas aminim.
Yeah. And there's olive oil as well.
Oh,
and
okay.
Ceylon. So there's 3 of the shivas aminim. You could actually put all of them inside and make like a salsa. Wow. Isn't it good?
What is that for?
Okay. So let me tell you, I'll tell you the background. For Rosh Hashanah, we did a very cool article. We did brisket toppers. So we did really delicious brisket recipes. But brisket could sometimes be beige and like brown and boring. So in order to liven it up, we made 3 different toppings. This was one of them. And this was my favorite. It's so surprising. Just grapes, shallots, herbs. And then it's seasoned with olive oil. Do you know what that tangy seasoning is? Guess.
Tangy?
See if you could guess. There's like a tangy, lemony seasoning. Besides lemon juice. Usually you guess. Yeah, I expected you to guess.
I mean, I get the shallot, I get the herbs.
Okay.
There's some kind of tang.
Yeah, it's not a spice we use a lot, so that's why it's not on your mind. But you would know.
It's a spice?
Oh, I gave it away. Yeah.
What is it? Sumac?
Yeah.
Oh, you said tanginess. I wasn't expecting the sumac.
Sumac is tangy.
Oh, I thought you even said that sumac was in it. I heard sumac.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But isn't sumac
I feel like sumac for me sumac is like one of these like it gives you like it's like a note that's on the side. You know, it's not really like a strong. And in this flavor.
Case, do you taste that strongly?
When you said spice, I knew straight away you meant sumac. But when you said that there was another sour element, I thought like more like lemon
tangy.
Juice. I thought you were talking like a liquid.
Got it. Okay, understood.
But that's delicious.
Anyway, those are 3 ways to have fun on Tu Bishvat. Bring something new to the table. Obviously, we have a lot of other ideas.
You said this recipe was from the
Rosh Hashanah issue.
So people can get on the app.
Yes. So actually, that's a very good point. And we could just end with this, that when you subscribe to Fleishik's magazine, you get full access to the app, which gives you access to all of our recipes from all previous years. I don't even know how many recipes we did at this point. While it feels like we started the magazine yesterday, it's been quite a few years. So all those issues are online, which is on the app, not online, which is really
You
great.
mentioned brisket.
It's on fleishiks.com.
Right.
And
no, you mentioned brisket.
Okay.
Which recipe was it? It was one of our recipes that we did. We actually put on Kosherdotcom, and it went viral. People loved it.
Okay, so there's the Montreal Spice braised brisket is probably our most viral recipe ever.
So would you do this grape thing on that?
It's a very funny story, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I get this message from Leah at Between Carpools, and she says, by the way, we got this recipe that someone said is the best brisket recipe. And it's one of those recipes that like was passed from one person to the other, to the other, to the other, but they don't know who the source is. It actually like said in the beginning of the recipe, like we don't know whose this is, but it's one of those recipes. It turns out it's my recipe that I created for Fleishiks years ago. It was like my attempt at like merging like modern ingredients, but with a classic brisket flavor. And it just went viral. Like I think thousands of people have made it. It's an excellent recipe. And we happen to have shared it on Kosherdotcom.
This recipe's on
the recipe is available.
So here's my question. Can you take that brisket and top it with this grape salad? It would work, right?
Yeah, of course. I was just thinking like, I don't know if that brisket needs it, but you know, why not? A little bit something crunchy. That's the idea of this salad. It's like crunchy, sweet, sour, herbaceous. It just gives you that like extra layer of flavor. We do it a lot. It's actually inspired by the idea of a gremolata, which is, I'm not sure if it's, I think it's Italian. And what they do is when there's like a rich meat, they chop up herbs that they have, garlic, and a little bit of zest. Nuts can be added.
It changes up.
But the idea is to put something bright and like herbaceous to lift up something that's rich and like maybe heavier and just has like that one note of like a, you know, like a gravy flavor, which is rich and delicious. But if you add like some lemon zest or lemon and herbs, you're elevating the dish. And it's so simple.
Love it.
So that's what we're all about.
So get the recipe on the app.
Well, the brisket recipe is on Kosherdotcom.
Brisket recipe on Kosherdotcom. There's thousands of other recipes there too.
Yes.
Tu Bishvat recipes specifically, I think you can actually search through the Tu Bishvat category on Kosherdotcom.
Oh, on Kosherdotcom.
And make these salads, post it, share it, let us know what you think, and have a happy Tu Bishvat.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. This episode is brought to you by Heaven and Earth, Ceylon. Actually, it's perfect just in time for Tu Bishvat, which is what this episode is all about. But this is a pantry staple that we use for everything.
Our kids literally call it syrup. When we make pancakes or French toast, they want syrup, we give them Ceylon.
Yeah, Ceylon is our choice, our syrup of choice for waffles, challah French toast. But also, you know what it's really, really good with? It's a secret ingredient if you want to do like a spice braised chicken. You do like salt, paprika, garlic, pepper, and then a little oil. And then you do a little Ceylon. It gives you just the right amount of sweetness. It's not like...
Have I seen you finishing potatoes with this?
You can do that as well, yes, 100%.
Like when you do a spiced potato, a little drizzle.
I like that little tangy sweetness.
Another
so it's
really
a really
good thing,
pantry staple. With that
something that we've been doing, I'm going to say for about 6 years now.
Oh, that would be fun to showcase.
The Ceylon or date caramel.
Yeah, we have to showcase that separately. But there's so many uses for this syrup, and
one nice thing about
find it
the Heaven and Earth one,
most kosher supermarkets, and I think it's also available online.
One thing unique about the Heaven and Earth is that it's 100% pure date syrup. It doesn't have, some of the other ones are mixed with sugar and.
So exactly, that's a very good point. If you're into monitoring the source of your ingredients, you want non-processed food. The Heaven and Earth Ceylon is pure date syrup. Some other date syrups are cut with, or actually primarily based on sugar, with a little bit of date syrup added to it. So check your ingredients if you care, but know that you can trust the Heaven and Earth Ceylon.
This episode is brought to you by the Altair Hotel in Bay Harbor, Florida. The Altair is a kosher hotel. They have a kosher restaurant in the hotel, and it's perfect for the kosher traveler.
I mean, I've seen a lot of travelers. They have a mixed group of travelers. It's not just for kosher people. It happens to be located in a beautiful, along a beautiful bay. The view is spectacular. The palm trees when you're sitting outside. Oh, and they have free kosher breakfast for anyone who stays. We loved the kosher breakfast.
Israeli style. Think of like the hotels in Israel. You come in, full buffet, and it's great. But
you're looking at the water and the sun and the palm trees. It is epic.
I'm cold right now, and I'm just I want to go back.
Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. It's very family friendly. We really love staying in their suites because it comes with a fridge, a microwave.
I was getting to why also white kosher friendly.
Oh, yeah.
Because each room has Negelwasser.
Oh.
They have a curtain schissel for Negelwasser. They have a Shabbos lamp in a closet in every room, and they have a shaitel
really
head.
Fun. And it's in walking distance to Bell Harbor Central. So if you know, there's like that famous street of kosher grocery stores, shops, shuls, everything you need. And it takes about, how long is the walk? 10 to 15 minutes?
7-minute walk.
Oh, 7-minute walk. And they also give you, these are the perks that we had in the hotel that we liked. You get scooters. So let's say our son went in the morning to daven with the minyan at the Chabad. And then they give you bikes. There was also kayaks on premises, the fitness room, paddle boards. And then what was fun, we have 2 older boys in yeshiva, and they had separate swimming hours.
Morning and evening, they have separate swimming hours. They also have their own private beach with a shuttle every hour to the beach.
Right. So there's a lot of consideration for the kosher traveler. And it's a perfect stay in a very good location. It's a 4-star hotel on Google. Welcome back to another episode of Glatt. This week we are honored to be here with Rabbi Shais Taub. He is the most followed rabbi on Instagram. That's quite an accomplishment.
Over 10 million followers across all platforms.
Yeah. And you can reach him at soulwords.org. And the reason we invited Rabbi Taub to our studio this week is to celebrate in honor of the upcoming Yom Tif of Tu Bishvat. It's actually very interesting. Every time we plan an issue, and we work on whether it's the Rosh Hashanah issue, the Sukkot issue, or we do something Shabbos related, it's all about the food. You think about,
It's always about the food.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, when it comes to Tu Bishvat, we kind of gloss over it because it gets bundled up with either with Purim or with what's going on at the time.
Right.
So it's nice that we have this opportunity to actually delve into Tu Bishvat and see the spiritual side and
the deeper meaning behind it. And really our question of why is so much of Jewish celebration centered around the foods?
Yeah.
Is it us as people that did it? Is it like, what is the meaning behind that? How did it even happen, I guess?
Well, like every growing community knows that if you want to attract membership, you have to have a great kiddush, right?
and that's it.
So,
Totally.
Or, like we used to, in yeshiva, when we'd have the Fabrengens, the mashpiyim would explain to us that when you put out the food and a little bit of l'chaim, that calms down the animal soul. You have the godly soul, the animal soul. So the godly soul wants to be there, but the animal soul, you have to convince him. So, a little bit of...
But it does remind me, like, when you have the unofficial Kiddushim and Farbrengens, the ones where, like, you just pull out some crackers and herring.
Right.
Somehow those are the ones that actually are always better.
Yeah, especially if they're, like, officially, like, banned. You're not supposed to do it.
We go to a bungalow colony upstate in Monticello, and there's, like, 10 families. And the weeks that there's no official Kiddush, and my mother always says, she's like, oh, we're going to be here for an hour and a half until they come back. Like, this is going to be long.
No official Kiddushes.
But it is a bit of a contrast because Taka, in Yiddishkeit and Judaism, we are a lot about food. We have such a focus on food.
Yeah.
Even with mitzvahs and Torah and everything, everything we do.
Is it a
surrounds.
contradiction?
It can be. When, like anything, when it becomes an end unto itself, it can become a distraction. And ideally, it's supposed to be supportive of our spiritual growth. In fact, it's supposed to be the most spiritual thing there could possibly be. We mentioned the Kiddush. So, okay. So this is one of my halachic pet peeves. I don't want to say, I'm generally a pretty relaxed guy, live and let live. I'll tell you one of my halachic pet peeves is when people make Kiddush and that they are not koveya suda, which means either you wash and have some bread, or at least mezainis, some crackers, some cookies or whatever, because you're supposed to make Kiddush on a meal. And a lot of times you see people just make the Kiddush and then they don't have the meal. Well, that's the easy part. They're not even telling you to daven or pages. They're just telling you to eat some cookies, right? But what's interesting is the halachic terminology for that is ein Kiddush. There's no such thing as Kiddush. Ela b'makom suda, right? In the place of a meal. So Kiddush means holiness. So what's holiness? There's no holiness except in the place of a meal, which means if you want to be a soul in heaven, disembodied, flying around in the ether, that's easy. You can't call that holy. But when you come into a body and you have to sanctify the mundane, which is ultimately the whole point of creation, that's holiness.
Wow.
So yes, it can be a contradiction. It can be a distraction. But if it's done right, it's the ultimate harmonization, the physical and the spiritual, the body and the soul. Okay,
that was a great point because I thought you were going for like the Kiddush clubs or something like that.
The Kiddush club, whatever, live and let live. That doesn't bother me, by the way.
That's not a pet peeve.
No, because you know what? When they run to the closet, then it makes the shul a little bit emptier, and then I have more space, so it's fine.
It's usually quieter, also.
Quieter, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, and is there also something to people who might not be as excited to come to shul, looking forward, even if it's the Kiddush aspect, or is that the distraction part?
You know how many people were niskadev who were drawn closer to Yiddishkeit because
of Kiddushim and Farbrengens.
Yeah, or a good bowl of chicken soup with a knedel. So again, if it's an end unto itself, meaning if that's where it stops, okay, so then you could question it. But in many cases, that's the entry point, and we shouldn't denigrate it.
It's fascinating. Yeah. So it's like for the greater good. It's like food really does play such an important role in our culture.
Yeah. I mean, even to the point of Shabbos, every single week we make, hamaitzi challah. Mm-hmm. Challah is like the ultimate Jewish food in a way. Because it dates back to like the Mishkan. and it's been the bread of the Jews for so many generations. It's actually fascinating. Like, it goes back and ties us all to like the Jews who are going out of Mitzrayim.
Yeah, and you have the double to represent the double portion of the mon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. I guess when you start thinking about it, it really connects you. Is that the point? Or it's more so just a tool? Or it could be both?
So, like I was saying before, that the food is, the soul is in a body, and the food is part of that embodiment experience. Okay. So think about it like this. I'm going to talk about two things that by themselves could be very crass. Food and money.
Okay.
And yet, they can become the holiest things. Money, think about money. If money is an end unto itself, that's a meaningless life. But when money is used as a tool, like, for instance, the vort about the machatzis a shekel, the half shekel, which is coming up, that mitzvah, Rosh Chodesh Adar, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to know what it means, and Hashem showed him a matbeh shel eish, a fiery coin. So why a fiery coin? Because money is fire. Just like fire can be destructive, like we just saw, in Los Angeles, right? Or fire can be, cook the food, keep the house warm. Fire can run the engine of the car. So money is a tool. It can be destructive if, God forbid, it's out of control, or if it's channeled and harnessed, then it can be productive. And for instance, like in the Yerushalmi, when it says ha-mitzvah, and it doesn't stipulate which mitzvah it's talking about, it always means tzedakah. Why? Because every mitzvah has to be physical. That's what our souls came to the physical world for, is to do mitzvahs. Mitzvahs are physical acts. The most physical of all the mitzvahs is tzedakah, because you had to exert yourself physically to earn the money. Then the money you could have spent it on physical resources, material resources for your own physical needs. And then when you turn that into a mitzvah, it's like, bam, that conversion of mundane into holiness. So what I'm saying is money and food are very similar in that if they're just there for themselves, it's crass. And it's even, it can bring a person to the lowest levels. But if it's channeled properly, then it actually fulfills the entire purpose why a soul came into a body. Because if not, Hashem could have left us alone. He could have left us in heaven. It's, the Chazal say, Noyach leila adam shalei nivra. It would have been better for us not to have been created, meaning we could remain in heaven as souls. We'd be perfectly happy. Why did we have to be bothered to come down here? And the point is, like the Medrash says, Dira b'tachtonim, Hashem wanted a dwelling place in the physical world. He wanted that paradox of the infinite revealed within the finite. And the way we're part of that process of making a dwelling place for Hashem is refining the physical world step by step through using physical resources mindfully. So, it's all about how we use it. If we elevate it, then it's the most powerful, it's really the most powerful spiritual act.
When you talk about elevating, I'm assuming obviously making a bracha is one way. Are there other ways to elevate it too?
Well, there's a few things. I mean, first of all, you have to make sure that the food is permissible. It's a very interesting thing. I don't know if people know where we're recording, but we're in the middle of Cedarhurst right now. Right across the street is the Levi Yitzchak Library, and I give a weekly Tanya share there for women. Mondays at 11 a.m. if anyone is interested in joining. And it's
live or only in person?
No, it's a real thing. It's people come in, yeah.
I'm saying, can people tune in is what I was asking.
Oh, online? No, it's real life, like souls and bodies.
Got it.
But we don't serve food. But maybe we'll start serving food. Maybe. Okay. So if we serve food and the attendance would go up, I think that would corroborate everything that we've been saying. We just learned chapter 8. So actually in chapter 8, also actually even earlier, it repeats it in chapter 8, but it first says this concept in chapter 7. The Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, explains the language aser and mutter, which means forbidden and permissible. And he says that it's really, literally, it means bound and unbound. That aser means tied down, and mutter means unbound. And I think that's such an interesting concept. A lot of people think of Torah law as restrictive, as like denying them of pleasures. Like Hashem's just not letting you have that thing. So the question is, this is how I taught it with the group over there. I said, is it tied down because it's prohibited, or is it prohibited because it's tied down?
Oh.
Think about it. It's a big difference. You go to a Motel 6 and they have the lamp bolted to the nightstand, right? A fancy hotel, they don't do that.
Right.
Okay, but in the Motel 6, it's why? Because they're afraid you're going to steal the lamp. Okay, so is it that Hashem is bolting stuff down because he doesn't want you to have it? So it's like tied down because it's prohibited? Or, to the contrary, is it prohibited because it's tied down? Are there certain things that are inherently useless to us, meaning we can't elevate them,
Right.
we can't use them in our spiritual journey, and therefore Hashem does us the favor of letting us know, leave it alone, it's a waste of your time and energy. So there are certain things that Hashem, he saves us the heartbreak and the agony. He says, you're never going to be able to elevate that. I'm doing you a favor. I'm telling you it's prohibited because it's inherently useless to you. Whereas the things that are unbound, that are permissible, those can be elevated. Now, you were asking about like the prerequisites for elevating. So yes, it has to be something that's inherently permissible. Today, it's not that hard to find.
Oh yeah.
Plenty of permissible food. Making a bracha, you mentioned, that's part of it. But it has to be real. It can't just be you make a bracha and then you forget about God. It has to be the intention. And then you have to follow through with it. You have to burn those calories to do something holy, to do a mitzvah, to learn Torah, to daven. And then, then you turn that mundane energy into something holy.
It's like the real meaning or the spiritual meaning of mindful eating.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes back to Tanya.
Yeah, because mindful eating is such a trend, but more the health part, but you can approach it from a spiritual perspective, which is really cool.
But that's interesting because for myself, I mean, like I always think of, okay, you make the bracha and you've now sanctified, you've turned this physical food into something spiritual. But obviously there's obviously good in that, and that accomplishes something. But you're saying that it's a step further, taking that to actually go and use the koyach, use the strength from that food and actually do a good deed or do something in the service of Hashem.
Yeah. I'll tell you something very interesting. I saw it in a Sikha from Lubavitcher Rebbe. He mentions that there's a Gemara in Brachas that says that if you eat food with, even permissible food, obviously permissible food, but without a bracha, it's like eating truma. Truma is the food that's donated to the kohen. It's not for public consumption. So the Rebbe asks a question, well, how does making a bracha help? If you say it's like stealing, so then you're asking permission, then it's no longer stealing. But if you say it's like eating truma, permission doesn't help.
It's not for you.
It's not for you. So even if you ask, may I eat this? No, you may not eat it. You're not a kohen. So the Rebbe explains like this. It's very, very deep. Who else can eat truma? The eved of a kohen. If the kohen has a servant who he has to support, who lives with him in the home, then he can eat the truma. So the Rebbe actually says, when you make the bracha on the food, it's not so much you're changing the food as you're changing yourself. You're submitting to the service of Hashem. Wow. You're becoming Hashem's eved. And now, of course, you're allowed to eat from his food.
Okay, that's deep.
Very deep stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I'll forget to say a bracha this week.
Nice.
But now that it's coming, this week is Tu Bishvat, it's like one of those, I mean, at least for me, like growing up, it's always about the Shivas Haminim, which is the actual physical foods that
are special to Israel.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Is there like
a significance to these foods in a spiritual way?
Yeah.
You know what you were going to say?
I guess.
Or something like that? Mm-hmm. Some kind of connection?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The Shivas Haminim, so 2 of them are grains and 5 of them are fruits. So we mentioned earlier the animal soul and the godly soul, right? That's a basic concept in Tanya also. But I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the fabrengen, that you put out the food to draw the animal soul. So it's interesting. Wheat and barley, in at least the way that it's talked about in Gemara, is human food and animal fodder. Barley is generally not, I know.
Today it's quite trendy.
Yeah,
and you
barley.
see it in a lot of recipes and stuff like that.
Barley is very trendy today, but yeah, in the olden days, wheat was considered more human food, and barley was more for animals, animal feed. So the wheat and the barley represent the godly soul and the animal soul. That human part of you is the godly soul, and the more animalistic part of you, the part that's more based on survival, that's the one that's the animal. So that's the barley. So having both of them means that we need to incorporate both of these drives, not just the altruistic, selfless, spiritual drive, but we need to incorporate that animalistic instinct for survival. So we bring it on board, often by, like we were talking about, coaxing it with some nice food. But the point is that it's educational. It's not an end unto itself. It's to bring the animal soul on board and to have it cooperate with us. And then, like Shlomo Melech says in Mishli, that there's much strength in the yield of an ox. Was he giving farming tips? No, he was saying the animal soul is an ox. If it's not channeled, then it's like a bull in a china shop. It'll destroy your life. But if it's channeled, then the animal soul will actually cause you to go to a higher spiritual level than you would have with only the godly soul.
Okay,
so
nice.
That's the wheat and the barley.
So we got two. Yeah, the grains.
Yeah, the grains. Then we got the fruits. Let me think about that. I got to remember. Did I ever once spoke about this? Fabrengen. So I remember the dichotomy that I was spoke about, the difference between the pomegranate and the fig. Yeah, the pomegranate is, it talks about it in Shir HaShirim, and the Gemara interprets it to mean Fila Pasha Yisrael Malay mitzvahs kirimain, that even the wanton sinners of Israel are full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. So the Rebbe asks, what does it mean, like a pomegranate? Like, just a lot of it? So he says, no, not just quantitatively, qualitatively, in the manner of the seeds of a pomegranate, which is that in a pomegranate, the fruit is in little compartments. Mm-hmm. Like you open up an apple, once you get past the skin, it's all apple, right? You open up a pomegranate, the fruit, each piece of fruit is in its own little packet. So he says like this, there could be a person who he's full of mitzvahs in the manner of pomegranate, meaning he hasn't completely integrated the mitzvahs to his core being. In some ways, he could even be called a hypocrite in the noble sense of the word, where every good thing he does is sort of like isolated. It hasn't become thoroughly integrated where it's just organic and it's in a flow state. Really, every good thing he does is, do the next right thing and the next right thing and the next right thing. And even sometimes he's forcing himself to do it. Maybe sometimes he doesn't even feel like doing it, but he disciplines himself. So the pomegranate represents the importance of doing the right thing, even when we're not totally integrated with it.
Wow. Okay, that's a good one.
Very important.
Yeah, but that's the hardest thing to do sometimes.
But then there's the flip side of it, which is hard in a different way. Okay. The fig. The fig is the flip side of the pomegranate. The fig, according to some opinions, the Eitz Hadas, the fruit of the tree of knowledge, was a fig, right? So das means knowledge, but it's more than knowledge. It's deep connection. It's focus. So when you have das, it means you're it's mindfulness. So it's the opposite of the pomegranate. The pomegranate is do it even without mindfulness. Just get it done. The fig is when you become completely integrated and everything you're doing, you bring your heart, you bring your mind.
With the cheshbon planned out, it's thought out.
And these are both important. It's not, we're not saying to be one or the other. Yeah. There are times in our lives where we're one and times in our lives where we're the other. And sometimes growth is not linear and we weave back and forth, but they're both important aspects of spiritual growth.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's really incredible how you can look into even a pomegranate and a fig and find so much meaning. But I think that's the beauty in, I guess, the kosher lifestyle. And even though it's so hard to keep kosher. So what is accomplished when a person sort of embraces just keeping kosher with a full heart? Because it's one of the mitzvahs that don't really have explanation, even though now people find
Right.
explanations for it.
It's interesting because people think that kosher is a logical mitzvah. In fact, they even think, there are health benefits.
It's healthier,
Right,
there's
it's
more
healthier.
inspection, but
Right.
it's not necessarily
true.
We do it because Hashem
Right.
told us.
Right. I mean, the Torah wants us to be safe and healthy, but that's a
Right.
separate thing from
kosher lollies have red 40.
Exactly.
Will they continue to?
Right.
We were talking about it. We were like, should Rabbanim also oversee this part?
Right.
As
I
part
mean,
of kashrus?
That's an
interesting-
aspect of halacha, but it's separate from
Yeah.
the
That's like added value.
yeah. So I mean, you could get into a lot of other discussions too about like the ethical preparation of the food and things like. But kashrus itself, just what makes food kosher or not, the food chemistry of it, it really is irrational, and people try to attribute rational explanations. But really, it's just, this is the will of God.
Kashrus itself is a chayk.
Yeah, it's a hike. Yeah.
You have to keep kosher like a pomegranate.
And
Yeah,
because
that's
when you don't get the reason, you just do it. That's right. Totally. But then if you do it long enough, it starts to make sense.
That's true.
And then you do it like a fig.
Nice.
You do both.
It is funny along the way you get to see certain perks or certain health benefits because we keep kosher, and because of these different certifications or things that we do because Hashem told us to.
Yeah, I mean, that's a side benefit. But the underlying motivation is not because it makes our lives better. I think that's just in general about Judaism. A lot of times we try to sell it like selling soap or deodorant, toothpaste. Judaism is not a self-help program. Of course it has benefits, because if you're doing God's will, then your life will probably run more smoothly. But that's not the real reason. The real reason is because we're part of a project which is much bigger than us. And I mentioned it before, that we're here to refine the physical world. And we call that Mashiach. When Mashiach comes, that's the complete refinement of the physical world. And when you eat kosher food, you're refining the physical world. There's a word from the Rebbe's father, I believe Yitzchak. He says that kosher, he was a makubal, a Kabbalist, and he was very into like Rosh Hashanah, acronyms, finding like patterns in words. So he says that kosher, the word kosher, Chav Shin Reish, is a Rosh Hashanah, is an acronym for the words in a verse in Tehillim and Psalms. It's actually in Kuf Yotes, that long chapter, 119. I rejoiced, King David is saying this, I rejoiced over your word. He's speaking to Hashem, so Hashem's word. Like somebody who finds a great treasure. Yeah. So the Rebbe's father explains, what's the treasure that I'm rejoicing over? Is that how does Hashem create? Through speech. Baruch she'amar v'haya olam. Yedaber Elokim. So Hashem is speaking the world into being through Dvar Hashem v'ruach piv. And so every physical thing that exists has a spark of divine creativity called the Dvar Hashem, called Hashem's word. So Sos hanechi alim rasecha, I rejoiced over your word, meaning when I was able to mindfully engage with this piece of kosher food and use its energy to do something spiritual, I rejoiced that I was able to tap into that Dvar Hashem, kemeitze shalorov, like somebody who finds a hidden treasure. Because really, what's the hidden treasure within the food is the opportunity to refine something of this physical world and to make it spiritual.
Wow. Okay.
I think that's, we could speak about this for hours. I think that's a really good
It's a nice message.
but it's a great way to sign off on this episode.
Oh, I'm not done.
Oh, you're not done?
No, I'm actually curious. I mean,
okay, go for it.
I know that olives as an oil and grapes and wine.
Oh, you want to go
grapes.
back to Shivas?
I'm like, I want to go back
He's
to that.
bringing
I'm
it
like,
back.
and dates, they all have their place in Torah.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to go back to that. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I also, I'm more than happy to talk
I
about
got to
that.
see if I remember.
If there is some kind
no,
of...
there is. I got to remember it. I think there was another dichotomy. I think you said olives and dates. I think that's another like bookends, opposites. Olives represent difficulty because it has to be crushed, right, to bring out the oil. Also, it's bitter, so it represents the adversity of life, and that's important. there's growth through adversity. And we should embrace that. We shouldn't shy away from that. When the soul comes into a body, like we've been talking about so much here, part of that embodiment experience is nisyonis, is going through trials and tribulations. And it's like, it's not a bug, it's a feature. So we should embrace the olive moments of our life where we're, having a little bit of difficulty. But then there's the date. What does the date represent?
Honey and sweetness.
It's sweet, yeah. And also, and I don't think it's all dates, but there's a certain date palm that takes 70 years to grow. I mean, it says 70 years to produce fruit. So the 70, first of all, represents completion, because you have the 7 midos, chesed, gvura, tfiras, netzach, hod, yesod, malchus, which represents the emotions of the person. And then 10 times 7, all the 10 spheres as they're combined within those 7. So 70 represents completeness. Whereas like the olive is, I'm still striving, never arriving. The 70 of the date is like, I made it. I'm there. The sweetness of, it's almost like you get to a certain point in life when you look back and say, like all that hard work was worth it, right? So, and that's important too, to have those moments of celebration. So there's the olive, which is embracing the adversity when that's what's in season. And then there's the date, which is celebrating when you have those moments of completion.
Once you go through the avodah of, the work of the olive and the dates and then the grains, then maybe it's time for l'chaim on some wine. The last one.
That's the last one, is the grapes. That's right. And it's interesting. So grapes, are wine. What's interesting about grapes and wine, the relationship between grapes and wine. So we say, nichnas yain yotzesoid, when wine goes in, soid, the secrets come out, which simple meaning is a person gets a little bit inebriated and they just speak more loosely. But also what it means is, yain, yud nun, is 70, 10 and 10 and 50. Soid, secret, is samach vav daled, which is 66 and 4 is again 70. That the yain itself represents a soid. What does that mean? It means that the grapes had within them the potential to become wine. And they had to undergo a process. And through that process, that capacity to be wine was revealed. And because the potential to be wine was always in the grape, and it just comes out, then it has the same effect on the person, where when the person consumes the grape that has now become wine, it does the same thing to the person. The potential that was in the person comes out. Which is why, like, when somebody drinks and they say, well, that wasn't me, I'm really such a nice guy. Well, apparently not. Like, the wine didn't make you something that you're not, it just made it more revealed, right? So yain represents revelation of potential. That whatever it is that's sort of simmering beneath the surface, the untapped stuff, the latent stuff, we bring it out. That's what life's all about.
It's amazing. It's actually fascinating as I'm talking about it. We're going through these different foods. From these 7, pretty much all of them are very trendy right now.
Are they?
Yeah.
Pomegranates are very in.
Yeah.
Dates are very in. Figs are very in. Wine, olives, olive oil.
Yeah, they really are.
Is that why they're so expensive?
That probably would contribute to it, but it is fascinating.
Well, now when this podcast is going to come out, it's going to get even more expensive. I'm going to run, when I leave here, I'm running out to buy all the Shivas Aminim. I'm going to stock up. That's it. I'm going to start price gouging. After people watch the podcast, they're going to be trying to get Shivas Aminim, and
that's amazing. I mean, I never realized we know the spiritual side of food in general and kosher, but to hear like even just the different shivas, each one and how it has that own special quality is fascinating.
Yeah, and it helps connect to the day. So it's great.
I'll tell you one more vort on this subject. There's a Gemara in Tainus, talks about 2 Amoraim, Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Yitzchak. So one of them asks the other, you want to say Dvar Torah? Well, he was in the middle of a meal. So he says, Ein mesichin b'suda. We don't speak in a meal. Shema yakdim kona levashit. Lest you, yakdim means it goes first. It goes before. It means the kona, the windpipe, will open up before the veshet, the esophagus, and the food will go down the windpipe, God forbid, and choke a person. So we don't eat during a meal because we don't want to open up the windpipe before the esophagus. So there's a deeper explanation of this, which is everybody knows that if you're in the middle of learning Torah, you don't have an idle conversation because you're learning. Everyone knows if you're davening, you don't start having a conversation. You're davening. So everyone respects the mitzvahs that you do with the kona, with the windpipe, with the voice, the kol Torah, the kol tefillah. You don't break out into a idle conversation in the middle of that because you respect it. You respect the mitzvahs of the kona. But what about the mitzvahs of the veshet, of the esophagus, of eating and drinking? So that people don't think of it as a mitzvah, so they'll just have a regular idle conversation. Don't have stam a regular conversation in a meal. Shema yakdim, lest you will give kedima, precedence to the kona over the veshet, meaning to the mitzvahs that you do with the windpipe.
Food really does have importance.
Over the mitzvahs that you do with the esophagus. In other words, embrace those mitzvahs, recognize them as mitzvahs, sanctify it, do it mindfully, and then you'll realize that when you do it right, it's just as holy as davening and learning.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That was a great word to end off on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi. I
was.
really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
your
It
time.
was worth
My
talking
pleasure.
a few extra minutes.
And I must say, I wasn't expecting this. I mean, I was expecting you to come with some great information, but I wasn't expecting the different explanations for each one. It was really fascinating.
I'm glad I remembered it. Yeah. But now I'm nervous. I'm preoccupied because I'm really going to run to the store because I'm really anticipating the Shivas Haminam price is going through the roof, at least in the tri-state area. So
It's always like that.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
my pleasure. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
This episode is brought to you by Tuscanini's new balsamic glaze, balsamic reduction. 2 new flavors. You have the caramel glaze and you have the raspberry glaze.
First of all, I'm a classic person. So I love the classic balsamic glaze. It's literally just balsamic, the flavor of
Cooked on.
balsamic that's reduced with a little bit of sugar or flavoring.
They've done the work for you because whenever we cook balsamic, that smell gets to
Oh
me.
yeah.
So
But it really elevates a dish, just a little
Yes.
drizzle. So now they came out with 2 new flavors. I haven't even tried it yet.
I
That's
tried
what I
the
was saying.
raspberry.
Like, I love the classic. You tried the raspberry?
I like raspberry. Like I'll actually do raspberry flavor and stuff.
Okay.
As you know.
They're always,
And-
Tuscanini is always pushing the boundaries.
Pushing the
Like
envelope.
they're always pushing the envelope. They're always doing something new.
So I liked it. I tried it on cheese. I tried it.
That's a good idea. Raspberry with cheese. Okay.
There was something else that I tried it on just the other day and I forgot already what.
Okay.
But it was great. I literally was eating it with a few different things and it went. It just paired well. I like the flavor. So this is just a new pantry staple. It's going to be a pantry staple for us because I like it.
Yeah, I already know that the classic is a pantry staple. So
Great. Nice new product.
this episode is also brought to you by Heaven and Earth pomegranate juice. What you could rely on Heaven and Earth for is really good quality, clean ingredients and products. And this is just an example. It's organic. It's 100% pomegranate juice with nothing else added to it. So you really get the pure flavor of pomegranates. And again, it is perfect for Tu B'Shvat season.
What would you use it for?
Just over ice, a little bit of lime, a drizzle of honey. Just make yourself a nice drink. That is delicious. Another
cooking?
great way is to just braise, like instead of wine. You know, a lot of roasts call for wine. We're actually developing a recipe. This is now Pesach season.
It has
is
that
coming.
tartness, the
It has a
acidity.
nice tart acidity to it because it's 100% pomegranate juice, nothing else added to it. You sear meat, let's say short ribs, flanken, a 2nd cup brisket, salt, pepper. Put a whole bottle of this pomegranate in it and let it cook on low heat.
Look at that. The
Add a little
recipe
bit of
right
sauteed
there.
onions or garlic, but it would be really good with meat, like braised. Yeah.
Nice.
You put me on the spot, but that's what I would do
I put you on the spot.
in
but
this
it's-
moment. Oh, it would also be really good in salad dressing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Heaven and Earth organic pomegranate juice.
It's kosher, it's Glatt. You're listening to Glatt. It's all